She was only 19 and slept on the porch, like someone who had already given up on deserving shelter. He was a 43-year-old millionaire, a widower, somber, who covered her with a sheet that hid much more than care. Watch this story until the end. You'll be surprised. If you like love stories, romance, subscribe to this channel, leave your comment. We post videos like this every day, continuing. The bus stopped on the dirt road with a metallic sigh, as if it too was tired of carrying stories no one wanted to hear. Emily Carter got off with just a backpack and an address scribbled on a paper already yellowed by the sweat of her hands. 19 years weighed on her shoulders like an eternity of bad choices and broken promises. The driver looked at her in the rearview mirror with a mixture of curiosity and pity, but said nothing. There was something in her gaze that discouraged questions. The road climbed in lazy curves between eucalyptus trees that whispered secrets to the wind. Emily walked slowly, not from fatigue, but because each step took her further from what she knew and closer to the unknown. She had learned not to trust promises, but a safe bed and a salary at the end of the month were too pragmatic to be a lie. The newspaper ad had been direct. Nanny needed for 5-year-old child. Live-in position. References not required for the right candidate. References not required. That had caught her attention more than it should have. Desperate people recognize other desperate people, and there was something in the text that screamed silent urgency. When the gates of the Anderson estate appeared, Emily felt her stomach contract. It wasn't fear, it was recognition. That imposing architecture, the symmetrical gardens, the tall dark windows reminded her of the house where she had grown up. It reminded her of power, control, secrets kept behind heavy curtains. But it also reminded her of possibilities. Places like this had spare rooms, full pantries, and gentlemen who paid well for silence. The intercom crackled when she pressed the button. "Emily Carter," she said into the microphone. "I'm here for the nanny position." The voice that responded was female, dry, without warmth. "Enter, follow the driveway to the main door." The gates opened with an electronic groan, and Emily walked along the cobblestone driveway that cut through an excessively manicured garden. Everything there screamed constant maintenance, endless money, obsessive perfectionism. The roses were pruned with military precision, the grass trimmed to a uniform height that made Emily think of a soldier's haircut. Even the trees seemed to have been disciplined to grow only where it was convenient. The main door opened before she could knock. A middle-aged woman with grey hair pulled into a severe bun looked her up and down with eyes that seemed to X-ray. "Souls." "Martha," she introduced herself without extending her hand. "I'm the housekeeper. Mr. Anderson doesn't meet candidates. I do the selection." Emily nodded, accustomed to being evaluated by people who had the luxury of choice. Martha led her through an entrance hall that echoed her steps like a cathedral. The ceiling was too high, the walls covered with dark paintings that seemed to observe every movement. Everything in the house breathed melancholic grandeur, as if the fortune accumulated there had too high an emotional price. "Age?" asked Martha, stopping in front of a room that looked more like a courtroom. 19 years old. "Experience with children?" Emily hesitated for a second. Lying would be easier, but there was something in the housekeeper's gaze that suggested lies would be quickly discovered. "Little, but I learn fast." "Why do you want this job?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Emily knew her answer would define whether she would sleep that night in a bed or on a park bench. "Because I need it. And because children deserve someone who truly cares." Martha studied her for long seconds, and Emily held her gaze without faltering. There was something in her posture that spoke louder than her words, a wounded dignity, but not broken, a vulnerability that came wrapped in strength. "The child's name is Lily, 5 years old. Lost her mother 2 years ago and since then has had difficulties, nightmares, anxiety attacks, fear of strangers. Mr. Anderson works a lot and travels frequently. You would be responsible for her full time." "And Mr. Anderson?" Emily asked, genuinely curious about the man who had created this environment of deafening silence. "Mr. Anderson should not be disturbed, unless strictly necessary. He has his particularities. He prefers distance." There were layers in that answer, but Emily didn't insist. Complicated people were her forte. She was one herself. The salary is adequate, meals are included, and you'll have a room in the staff wing. The rules are simple: absolute discretion, punctuality, and never enter the library. After 10 at night, Mr. Anderson uses that space to work and does not tolerate interruptions. Emily nodded, mentally cataloguing each piece of information. The library at night. Interesting. Can I meet Lily? Martha led her up a wide staircase. That led to the second floor. The corridor was long, dotted with closed doors that made Emily wonder how many secrets a house that size could keep. They stopped in front of a door painted light blue, the only soft color in all that austere architecture. Lily, Martha knocked gently. There's someone here who would like to meet you. The voice that answered was small, cautious. You can come in. Lily's room was a shocking contrast to the rest of the house. Walls painted a soft sky blue, white clouds drawn on the ceiling, toys organized but clearly used. In the center, sitting on a bed that looked like a miniature castle, was the most beautiful little girl Emily had ever seen. Dark, curly hair framing a delicate face, large eyes too serious for her age. Hi, Lily. I'm Emily. The girl studied her with the same intensity as the housekeeper, but there was curiosity there, not judgment. Did you come to take care of me? If you want me to. The last nanny left because I screamed during a nightmare. The child's brutal honesty made Emily kneel beside the bed. I have nightmares sometimes too. Maybe we can talk about them. Lily tilted her head, assessing whether that answer was true or just another adult lie. You won't leave if I cry? No. And if I throw a tantrum? No, then either. And if I talk about Mommy? Emily felt a tightness in her chest. There was pain in that question, an open wound that was still bleeding, especially if you talk about Mommy. Lily smiled for the first time, and the entire room seemed to get brighter. Can I show you my drawings? Of course. The girl jumped off the bed and ran to a small table covered with papers. Her drawings were vibrant, full of life, very different from the heavy atmosphere of the house. There were princesses and dragons, rainbows and castles, but also dark figures that Emily recognized as nightmares materialized on paper. This one is my daddy. Lily pointed to a tall, dark figure. He's very busy, and this is Mommy's ghost. Sometimes she visits my dreams. Emily swallowed the lump in her throat. The child drew her pain with the same naturalness with which she drew flowers. Your Mommy must have been very special. She was. She sang to me when I was afraid. Daddy doesn't know how to sing. I know some songs. Really? Really? Lily moved closer, and Emily felt that she had passed the first test. Martha reappeared at the door with a slightly softer expression. Lily, why don't you show Emily her new room? She's going to stay with us. You have a room here? Lily asked, excited. I do. Can I see it? Martha led them back down the corridor, but this time they descended a secondary staircase that led to the staff wing. The room designated for Emily was simple but clean. A twin bed, a dresser, a small desk, and a window that looked out on the back gardens. It wasn't luxurious, but it was safe. And after months of sleeping in shelters and strangers' homes, safe was all she needed. Lily's routine is on the table, Martha explained. Breakfast at 7, educational activities in the morning, lunch at noon, rest in the afternoon, dinner at 6. She goes to bed at 8 sharp. There's no television in her room by Mr. Anderson's orders. He believes it overstimulates the imagination before sleep. Emily nodded, but mentally questioned whether depriving a 5-year-old child of cartoons would really help with nightmares. And what about Mr. Anderson? When will I meet him? When necessary, Martha responded firmly. He prefers it that way. As the day progressed, Emily began to realize that the Anderson estate functioned like a silent clock. Each employee had their well-defined function. Each environment had its unspoken rules. Each schedule was religiously respected. It was too much organization to be natural, too much control to be healthy. Lily, however, was a ray of sunshine in that mausoleum. She quickly took to Emily, following her through the corridors, asking questions about everything and nothing. sharing stories about her mother with a mixture of longing and love that made Emily's heart ache. During dinner, served in a formal dining room where Lily looked like a lost doll at a giant table, the girl asked when her father would return. "Mr. Anderson is in Boston on business," Martha replied. "He returns tomorrow night." "He always travels," Lily murmured to Emily. "Mommy used to say that Daddy carried the world on his shoulders and sometimes needed space to breathe." Emily wondered what kind of world a man like Michael Anderson carried. From the opulence of the house, from the reverence with which the staff spoke of him, from the mystery that surrounded his personal life, it must be a heavy world indeed. At night, when she put Lily to bed, Emily sang softly a lullaby that her own mother had sung to her in the rare moments of tenderness in her childhood. Lily fell asleep with a smile on her lips, and for the first time in months, Emily felt she was in the right place. Her room was just below the library, and around 11 at night, she heard footsteps on the floor above. Measured, confident steps that walked back and forth like those of someone lost in deep thoughts. Mr. Anderson had returned earlier. Emily got up and walked to the window. The gardens were bathed in the light of the full moon, creating shadows that danced between the trees. It was beautiful in a melancholic way, like everything in that house. She was watching an owl that had landed on the branch of an oak tree when she heard the library being opened on the floor above. Curiosity had always been her weakness. Emily left her room silently and climbed the secondary staircase that led to the main floor. The corridor was dark, but there was a sliver of light coming from under the library door. She approached without making a sound and heard the sound of pages being turned, a chair being dragged, the constant ticking of an antique clock. Then she heard something that made her hesitate, a deep sigh laden with fatigue and something that seemed very much like despair. Emily was about to return to her room when she heard Lily screaming upstairs. The scream was of pure terror, the kind that freezes the blood and instinctively accelerates the heart. Emily ran upstairs, completely forgetting discretion. Lily's room was dark, and the girl was sitting in bed, eyes wide, breathing heavily, pointing to the corner of the room as if she saw something terrible there. "Lily, it's okay. It's me, Emily." But the girl didn't seem to hear her. She was lost in whatever her nightmares had brought into reality. Emily turned on the light and approached slowly. "Lily, look at me. There's nothing in the corner. You're safe." It was then that she heard heavy footsteps on the stairs. Footsteps that didn't belong to Martha or any other staff member she had met during the day. These steps had authority, urgency, and something that made Emily shiver. The door opened, and for the first time she saw Michael Anderson. There was no photo that could do justice to that man. Tall, broad shoulders that completely filled the doorframe, dark hair with grey at the temples, eyes that seemed capable of reading souls. He wore a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up, as if he had been interrupted in the middle of something important. There was an intensity to him that made the air in the room seem denser. But what impressed Emily most was the expression on his face when he saw Lily in crisis. It wasn't indifference, as Martha had suggested. It was pain, deep pain, and total helplessness. He stood frozen in the doorway, clearly wanting to approach his daughter but not knowing how. "Lily," he said, and his voice was softer than Emily had expected. "Daddy's here." The girl looked at him, still lost between nightmare and reality. "Daddy, Mommy's ghost was here again." Emily saw Michael clench his fists, his jaw tense as if he were fighting against something internal. "There are no ghosts." "Here, Lily, you were dreaming." "But I saw her. She was crying in the corner, saying she misses home." The silence that followed was deafening. Michael seemed to have been struck by lightning, and Emily understood that those nightmares weren't just childhood trauma. They were something much more complex and painful. "Would you like me to sing to you?" Emily offered softly, breaking the tension. Lily nodded, still trembling. Emily sat on the edge of the bed and began to hum a lullaby she had learned as a child. Her voice filled the room, soft but firm, creating a cocoon of safety around the girl. Gradually, Lily relaxed. Her breathing normalized, Her eyes closed and she fell asleep leaning against Emily's shoulder. When Emily looked up, Michael was still standing in the doorway, but now he was observing her with a completely different expression. There was surprise, their gratitude, and something deeper that she couldn't identify. "Thank you," he murmured, almost inaudible. Emily merely nodded, not knowing what to say. There was a vulnerability in that powerful man that she hadn't expected to find. Michael approached the bed, watched his sleeping daughter for a few seconds, then did something that surprised Emily. He bent down and gently kissed Lily's forehead. "She hasn't had crises for weeks," he said quietly, more to himself than to Emily. "Sometimes they come back when something changes in the routine," Emily responded, also whispering. "Children sense when adults are disturbed." Michael looked her in the eyes for the first time, and Emily felt as if she had been truly seen, not evaluated, not judged, but seen. "I'm sorry if I woke you. I was working in the library. I heard the footsteps." "You heard just the footsteps, nothing else?" He nodded, satisfied with the answer. There was a test in that question, and Emily had passed. "You're the new nanny." "Emily Carter, Michael Anderson." He paused. "Martha said you had no experience with children." "I don't, but I have experience with nightmares." The response seemed to touch him in an unexpected way. Michael observed her for a few more seconds, as if trying to decipher a puzzle. "Lily liked you. That's rare. She's a special girl." "Yes, she's like her mother." His voice became heavier. "Perhaps too special for this world." There was bitterness in those words, a pain that Emily recognized because she carried a similar one. "Mr. Anderson, Michael." "Michael, may I ask a question?" He hesitated, then nodded. "Why don't you sing to her? Lily said her mother used to sing when she was afraid." The question hit its mark. Michael closed his eyes for a moment, and when he opened them again, there was a naked vulnerability there. "Because I can't. When she looks at me, when she needs something that Catherine used to give, I simply can't. It's as if everything I touch dies." The confession was raw, too honest for that first conversation, but Emily understood that pain recognizes pain, and sometimes strangers are safer for keeping secrets. "Maybe you're trying to be the wrong person," she said softly. "Lily doesn't need you to be her mother. She needs you to be her father." Michael looked at her as if she had said something revolutionary. "You don't know me." "No, but I know wounded children, and I know adults who blame themselves for things they can't control." The silence extended between them, laden with mutual understanding. Lily moved in her sleep, murmuring something inaudible, and both turned to her. "She'll be all right," Emily said. "Children are more resilient than we imagine." Catherine used to say the same thing. The name of his dead wife hung in the air like a tangible presence. "You must miss her very much." "I miss what could have been," Michael answered after a long pause. "But mostly I'm afraid of what might still happen." Emily didn't ask what he meant. There was forbidden territory in that phrase, and she had learned to respect boundaries. "I should let her sleep," Emily said, getting up carefully not to wake Lily. "Emily," she turned, "thank you for her falling asleep, for caring. That's what I'm here for." Michael nodded, but his eyes said that he had already realized that Emily was much more than a simple nanny. They left the room together, and in the dark corridor, Emily felt his presence in an almost physical way. There was something magnetic about that man, an intensity that was simultaneously attractive and dangerous. "Good night, Mr. Anderson." "Michael," he corrected. "And Emily." "Yes?" "If Lily has more nightmares, you can call me. No matter the time. Even if you're working in the library?" A ghost of a smile passed over his lips. "Even then." Emily returned to her room with her heart beating faster than it should. There was something in the way Michael Anderson looked at her, in the tone of his voice when he said her name, in the vulnerability he had shown in front of his daughter, that intrigued her deeply. She lay down, but sleep didn't come easily. From the floor above, she could still hear the footsteps in the library, slower now, almost meditative, and she had the strange impression that he was thinking about her too. There was danger in that thought. Emily knew well the signs of when she was becoming interested in someone who could destroy her. But she also knew that after a lifetime of running, sometimes the only way out is to stop and face what haunts us. And there was something about Michael Anderson that made her want to stay and discover what secrets a mansion like that kept, and why a man like him chose to live like a ghost in his own house. The clock on the bedside table read 2 in the morning when the footsteps finally ceased on the floor above. Emily finally fell asleep, dreaming of voices singing in the dark and men with sad eyes who carried the world on their shoulders. The following days at the Anderson mansion established a rhythm that Emily hadn't expected, outwardly silent, inwardly turbulent. Lily had become attached to her with an intensity that bordered on desperation, as if she feared that Emily might also disappear without warning. The girl followed her through the corridors, invented excuses not to be apart from her, and during afternoon naps insisted that Emily stay beside the bed until sleep came. "You won't leave like the other nanny, right?" Lily asked for the 3rd time that week, while they played in the back garden. "I won't, little one. I promise." "But what? Have Daddy doesn't like you?" Emily stopped pushing the swing where Lily was having fun. "Why do you think he won't like me?" "Because he doesn't like anyone, only Mommy. But Mommy can't come back." There was an ancient sadness in the voice of that 5-year-old child, an understanding of the permanence of death that hurt in the chest. "Sometimes people stay sad for a long time and forget how to like new things," Emily explained, pushing the swing gently. "But that doesn't mean they can't learn again. Do you think Daddy can learn to like me again?" The question hit Emily like a punch. Lily wasn't just doubting her father's affection for new people, she was doubting his affection for her. Emily knelt in front of the swing, holding the small warm hands of Lily. "Lily, listen carefully to what I'm going to tell you. Your daddy loves you more than anything in the world. I saw it in his eyes when you had a nightmare. I saw how he wanted to help you but didn't know how. Then why doesn't he hug me? Why doesn't he play with me?" "Because sometimes adults get so afraid of doing something wrong that they end up doing nothing. But that doesn't mean they don't care." Lily considered this answer with the seriousness of someone much older. "Can you teach him not to be afraid?" "I can try." "Promise." "Promise." But Emily knew that teaching Michael Anderson anything would be much more complicated than calming a child's fears. The man was an enigma who moved through the house like an elegant ghost, appearing at unexpected moments and disappearing before she could decipher him completely. He had started to appear for dinner some nights, sitting at the head of the long table, while Lily chattered about her day. Emily observed how he listened to each word of his daughter with genuine attention, but responded only with monosyllables or contained smiles. It was as if there was a glass wall between them. He could see and hear, but couldn't touch. During one of these nights, Lily fell asleep in her chair after a particularly active day in the garden. Emily got up to carry her to her room, but Michael was faster. "I'll take her," he said, picking his daughter up with a gentleness that contrasted with his physical imposingness. Emily followed them upstairs, observing how Lily instinctively snuggled into her father's chest, even while sleeping. In the room, Michael laid her on the bed with extreme care, covering her with the sheet as if she were made of crystal. "Has she had more nightmares?" he asked quietly, without taking his eyes off his daughter. "Only 2, and milder. I think she's feeling more secure. Because of you. Because of us. She needs to feel that she has a family, even if it's different from what it was before." Michael finally looked at her, and Emily saw something new in his eyes. Cautious hope. "You have experience with complicated families?" The question carried weight, as if he had realized that Emily had also fled from something. "I have experience with survival," she answered honestly, "and sometimes complicated families are the only ones we have." They left the room together, and in the dark corridor, Emily felt again that electric tension that seemed to arise whenever they were alone. Michael walked beside her to the stairs, but stopped before going down. "Emily, can I ask you a personal question?" She hesitated. Personal questions were dangerous territory. You can. What are you running from? The question was direct, without beating around the bush, and Emily admired his courage in asking it. From the same thing you are, she answered. The past. Michael nodded, as if that answer confirmed something he already suspected. Is that why you sleep on the porch sometimes? Emily felt her face heat up. He had noticed. How do you know? Because I don't sleep well either, and sometimes, when I'm in the library, I see you out there. I don't like spaces that are too enclosed. It reminds me, home. Home. They looked at each other in the dark corridor, two fugitives recognizing in each other the invisible scars they carried. The porch is dangerous, Michael said softly. If you can't sleep in your room, I can arrange another place. That's not necessary. I'll get used to it. Emily, the way he said her name made something contract in her chest. You don't need to get used to feeling uncomfortable. Not here. There was a promise in those words, an offering of security that Emily didn't know if she could accept. Thank you, she murmured. Good night, Michael. Good night. But when Emily went down the stairs, she knew he had stayed there watching her descend. And when she reached her room, she heard the familiar footsteps in the library above, more restless than usual. The routine of the mansion continued, but with a subtle difference. Michael began to appear more. Not intrusively, but he was there. At breakfast, reading newspapers while Lily drank hot chocolate. In the garden, pretending to work on his laptop while his daughter played. In the living room, leafing through books while Emily helped Lily with puzzles. He was learning to be present without imposing himself, and Emily realized that this was a conscious effort. A man accustomed to controlling everything was learning to simply be. It was during one of these casual appearances that the first truly intimate moment between them happened. Emily was in the music room, a space she had discovered by chance and where she liked to take Lily to listen to old vinyl records. The girl had fallen asleep on the couch while they listened to Chopin, and Emily was leafing through the collection of records when she heard footsteps behind her. She loves music, Michael said, observing his sleeping daughter. Inherited from her mother. Catherine was a pianist. She played every night before going to bed. Emily turned to look at him. There was melancholy in his voice, but not the acute pain she had expected. Do you play too? No, I'm better with numbers than with art. Art isn't about being good. It's about feeling. Michael approached the grand piano that dominated a corner of the room. His hands hovered over the keys without touching them. Catherine tried to teach me. She said I thought too much and felt too little. And what did you think about that? That she was right. He finally looked at Emily. Always was. There was vulnerability in that confession, a door opening to a space where Michael rarely allowed anyone to enter. May I ask you a question about Catherine? Emily asked softly. Michael tensed, but nodded. How did she die? The silence that followed was long and heavy. Emily was about to apologize for the indiscretion when he finally answered. Car accident, leaving a charity event downtown. It was raining heavily. She was driving too fast. His voice was controlled, almost clinical. She hit a tree on a curve on the highway. Were you with her? No. We had argued that night. She went alone. The guilt in those words was palpable, and Emily immediately understood why Michael isolated himself, why he treated love as something dangerous. What did you argue about? Michael hesitated, then seemed to decide that he had already gone too far to stop. About an investor who was courting Catherine. He would show up at the company, send flowers, make invitations. I said she was being naive, that he obviously wanted more than a friendship. Michael ran his hand through his hair. Catherine said I was paranoid, controlling, that I didn't trust her. And did you trust her? I trusted her. I didn't trust him. And were you right? I never found out. She died before we could resolve. Dosa. Emily processed the information, perceiving the layers of guilt and regret that Michael carried. You blame yourself for her death. She left the house crying because of me. If I hadn't been so what? So concerned about your wife's safety. So possessive. Or so in love. Michael looked at her with surprise. Men in love are possessive, Emily continued. Women in love are too. It's human nature to want to protect what we love. Even when that protection suffocates, even then, the difference lies in learning from mistakes. And you think I've learned? Emily studied him for a long moment. There was something in his posture, in the way he spoke of Catherine, that didn't completely fit the narrative of guilt that he told himself. I think you're punishing yourself for something that might not have been your fault. Emily, can I tell you something? As someone who has run from many bad things. He nodded. Sometimes we blame ourselves for tragedies because it's easier than accepting that some things simply happen. At least if it's our fault, we have control over it. Michael was silent, digesting her words. You're very young to be so wise. You're very intelligent to be so blind. The response made him smile for the first time since Emily had met him. Her true smile, which completely transformed his face. Catherine would say the same thing. Then she was an intelligent woman. She was, and stubborn, and beautiful, and... He stopped, as if realizing he was saying too much. And you still love her. I always will, but... Michael looked her in the eyes, and Emily felt that the air in the room had changed. There was something new there, a different tension. But perhaps it's time to learn that the heart has room for more than one type of love. The words hung in the air between them, laden with meaning. Emily felt her heart accelerate. Michael. I know it's complicated. I'm your boss, you're young, I have too much baggage. That's not it. Then what is it? Emily hesitated. How to explain that she had spent her entire life running from men who promised to take care of her, and then hurt her? How to say that he represented exactly the type of danger she had sworn to? Favoid? It's that I have baggage too. Everyone does. Mine comes with scars. Michael approached her slowly, as if not wanting to frighten her. I can show you some of mine too. He rolled up his shirt sleeve, revealing a thin scar on his left wrist. Childhood accident. Fell off a bicycle trying to impress a girl. Emily almost smiled. This one, he pointed to an almost imperceptible mark on his chin, was from a fight in college. Defended the honor of a girl who didn't even know I existed. And this? Emily lightly touched a small scar on his right. Hanisine wedding ring. I took it off with such force after the funeral that it cut the skin. The confession was too intimate, and Emily should have withdrawn her hand. But she didn't. Instead, her fingers traced the mark delicately. The deepest scars are the ones we can't see, she murmured. True, but sometimes we find someone who can see them anyway. They were very close now, and Emily could feel the heat emanating from his body, the subtle scent of his cologne, the intensity of his dark eyes fixed on her face. Emily. Lily's voice made them move apart quickly. The girl had woken up and was watching them with curiosity. What are you doing? Talking, Emily replied, trying to control her breathing. About what? About music, Michael said, quickly recomposing himself. Lily got up from the couch and ran to the piano. Daddy, can you play something for me? Like Mommy used to do. Emily saw Michael tense again. I don't know how to play, Princess. But Emily can teach you. You can, Emily. Emily looked at Michael, seeing the conflict in his eyes. Only if your father wants to learn. I want him. To? Lily jumped excitedly. Please, Daddy. Michael looked at his daughter, then at Emily. There was surrender in his eyes. All right, but just a little. Emily sat on the piano bench and made room for Michael beside her. When he sat down, she could feel the heat of his thigh against hers, the tension in his muscles. First posture, she said, gently adjusting his shoulders. Relax. Music isn't war. For me it is. Then you're doing it wrong. She positioned his hands over the keys, her fingers covering his to guide him. Now breathe and feel, don't think. Easier said than done. Trust me. Michael looked at her, and Emily saw that the phrase had a double meaning for both of them. All right. Emily, began to guide his fingers in a simple melody, something that Catherine had probably tried to teach many times. But this time was different. Michael wasn't resisting, wasn't trying to control, he was just following. The music that emerged was hesitant, but had something beautiful about it. Lily applauded, enchanted. Again, Daddy, again. This time, Michael tried on his own. His fingers stumbled on the keys, the melody came out disjointed, but he didn't stop. Emily observed his concentrated profile, his determination not to give up, and felt something move in her chest. Better, she encouraged, but you're still thinking too much. How do you manage not to think? I close my eyes and let the music carry me. Show me. Emily closed her eyes and began to play. Not a lesson, but something she felt. A melancholic melody that spoke of longing, of hope, of second chances. Her hands danced over the keys as if they had a life of their own. When she opened her eyes, Michael was watching her with an intensity that made her blush. How did you learn to play like that? My mother taught me, before everything got complicated. Does she still play? I don't know, it's been a long time since we spoke. Michael nodded, understanding that there were stories there that Emily wasn't ready to tell. Teach. Tell me a bit more. Of course. They spent the next hour at the piano, with Lily sitting on the floor drawing and listening. Gradually, Michael relaxed, letting the music flow instead of forcing it. His hands were too large for the keys. His fingers didn't have the agility of years of practice, but there was something touching in the effort, in the vulnerability of a man accustomed to being perfect, accepting being a beginner. When Lily began to yawn, Emily suggested they go for dinner. Is Daddy going to have dinner with us today? Lily asked hopefully. Michael looked at Emily, then at his daughter. I will. During dinner, for the first time since Emily had arrived at the mansion, the atmosphere was truly relaxed. Lily chatted about her father's progress at the piano. Michael asked questions about the day's activities, and Emily felt as if they were a family. The sensation was simultaneously wonderful and terrifying. After Lily went to bed, Emily went down to her room but couldn't concentrate on anything. Her thoughts constantly returned to the moments at the piano, to the physical proximity, to the way Michael looked at her. She was dangerously close to falling in love with a man who carried more emotional baggage than she could handle, a man who still loved his dead wife, a man who represented exactly the type of power and control she had spent her life running from. But he was also a man who treated his daughter with infinite delicacy, who was learning to play the piano because a child asked, who carried guilt for a death that might not have been his responsibility. Emily got up and walked to the window. The garden was bathed in moonlight, and she could see the illuminated library upstairs. Michael was there, probably working, probably thinking. She wondered if he was thinking about her. The answer came sooner than expected. Soft knocks on the door of her room made her turn. Emily, it's Michael, may I come in? Her heart raced. Nighttime visits were dangerous territory. Just a second. She opened the door, and Michael was there, still dressed in the dress shirt from dinner, but with his hair disheveled as if he had run his hands through it several times. Did something happen? No, I just wanted to thank you for the piano, for Lily being so happy. You don't need to thank me. I do. It's been a long time since I've seen her smile that way. They stood there at the door, very close in the small space, and Emily felt that electric tension again. Michael, I know this is inappropriate. I know you work here, that I'm older, that the situation is complicated. It is. But I can't stop thinking about you. The raw confession made Emily hold her breath. Michael, you barely know me. I know enough. I know that you sing to my daughter when she has nightmares. I know that you sleep on the porch because enclosed spaces remind you of home. I know that you play piano, like someone telling secrets. I know that you're brave enough to leave everything behind when you need to start over. Each word was a caress, a recognition of who she really was. And what you know about me scares me, he continued, because I've been dead inside for 2 years, and since you arrived, I feel as if I'm coming back to life." Emily closed her eyes, fighting against the impulse to throw herself into his arms. "It's not fair," she murmured. "What? You saying these things, you making me feel—" "What? Making you feel what?" Emily opened her eyes and found him much closer, his dark eyes fixed on her face. "Hope," she admitted. "And hope is dangerous for people like me." "People like you?" "People who have been broken before." Michael raised his hand, hesitated, then gently touched her face. "Who broke you, Emily?" The question was soft, but loaded with an implicit promise of protection that made her heart clench. "It doesn't matter. What matters is that I know how to recognize when I'm entering a situation that could destroy me." "And you think I could? Destroy you?" "I know you could." Michael withdrew his hand but didn't move away. "Then why didn't you send me away?" "Because maybe I'm tired of running." The answer surprised them both. Emily had spoken without thinking, letting escape a truth that she didn't even know she felt. "Emily, you still love Catherine." "I will always love Catherine, and I can't compete with a memory." "It's not a competition, it's—" "What?" "It's discovering that the heart has drawers, and maybe it's time to open a new one." Emily felt tears threaten her eyes. There was so much sincerity in those words, so much vulnerability that it hurt. "I don't know how to do this," she admitted. "Neither do I. Maybe we can learn together." "Michael, give me a chance, just one, to show you that not every man, it will hurt you." The plea in his voice almost completely undid her defenses. "And if it goes wrong? And if you discover that I'm not who you think I am? And if it goes right? And if we discover that sometimes the right people arrive at the wrong time, and sometimes that doesn't matter?" Emily looked into his eyes and saw sincerity, desire, fear, hope. She saw a man who was risking as much as she was. "One chance," she murmured. "One chance." Michael leaned in slowly, giving her time to move away if she wanted. Emily didn't move away. The kiss was soft, almost reverent, as if he were sealing a promise. Emily felt her defenses crumble one by one, replaced by something much more dangerous: trust. When they separated, both were breathing heavily. "Good night, Emily." "Good night, Michael." He moved away, but before leaving, he turned again. "Emily, thank you for giving me a chance." After he left, Emily leaned against the closed door, bringing her hand to her lips that still had his taste. She had crossed a line from which she couldn't return, had opened a door that would be impossible to close. And for the first time in a long time, she felt no desire to run. Perhaps it was indeed time to learn to stay. The days following the kiss changed the dynamics of the mansion in a subtle but noticeable way. Michael didn't try to repeat the intimacy, but there was a new awareness between them, a tension that vibrated in the air whenever they met. Glances that lasted a second too long, hands that brushed accidentally during meals, conversations that stopped in the middle when Lily appeared. Emily tried to maintain normality, focusing her energies on Lily and the routine of the house, but it was impossible to ignore how her body reacted to his presence. The way Michael said her name, the way his eyes sought her when he entered a room, the way he had started to play piano every night, always the same songs that she had taught, as if he were practicing to impress her. It was Martha who observed. Everything with hawk eyes. The housekeeper had always been reserved, but now there was a new coldness in her posture, a silent judgment that followed Emily through the corridors. During breakfast on the fourth day after the kiss, Martha finally decided to break the silence. "Miss Emily, I need to speak with you." Lily was playing in the garden, and Michael had gone out for a meeting in the city. It was the perfect moment for confrontations. "Of course, Martha. About what?" "About boundaries." The word hung in the air like a threat. "I don't understand." "Yes, you do. I've worked in this house for 20 years, girl. I've seen many women try to take advantage of Mr. Anderson's vulnerability." Emily felt the blood rise to her face. "I'm not trying to take advantage of anything." "No? Then why has he started dining with us every night? Why has he started playing the piano? Why has Lily been saying that you are a family?" Each question was a direct thrust. "Martha, I'm just doing my job." Your job is to take care of the child, not to seduce the boss. The accusation was direct, brutal, and Emily felt as if she had been slapped. Catherine was also young and beautiful. She also arrived here vulnerable, needing help. Mr. Anderson fell in love with her just as he's falling in love with you now, and look how it ended. Emily froze. What do you mean by that? Martha came closer, lowering her voice to a venomous whisper. Catherine died because she loved a man who attracts tragedy. Everything he touches dies, girl. And if you're not careful, you'll be next. You're trying to scare me. I'm trying to save you. Emily took a deep breath, trying to control the anger growing in her chest. Martha, I respect your concern, but my personal life is none of your business. Yes, it is, when it affects this family. Lily has already lost one mother. I won't let her lose another maternal figure because you decided to play with fire. I would never hurt Lily, but you will. When Mr. Anderson tires of you, when he discovers that you're not who he thinks you are, you'll leave and Lily will stay here broken again. Emily felt the words hit her own insecurities squarely. And if I don't leave? Martha laughed, a bitter sound without humor. They all leave, girl. Some by their own choice, others, she made a significant pause, others by circumstances beyond their control. The implicit threat made Emily take a step back. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you, this house has secrets, and Mr. Anderson has enemies. Women who get involved with him end up getting hurt, sometimes very seriously. Emily looked into the housekeeper's cold eyes and understood that there were layers to that mansion that she had yet to discover, secrets that went beyond a grieving man and a traumatized child. Why are you telling me this? Because you seem to be a good girl, and because Lily has become attached to you. If something happens to you, she'll suffer, and I won't allow that child to suffer more. With those words, Martha withdrew, leaving Emily alone in the kitchen with a whirlwind of thoughts and a growing fear in her chest. That afternoon, while Lily was drawing in the living room, Emily decided to explore parts of the mansion she still didn't know. There were corridors that led to closed rooms, a basement that Martha said was full of old things, and an attic that nobody mentioned. It was while looking for a staircase to the attic that Emily found a narrow corridor behind the library. There, hidden between the walls, was a small storage room full of dusty boxes, furniture covered by sheets and objects that clearly belonged to the family's past. Emily knew she was invading private territory, but the conversation with Martha had awakened a curiosity that she couldn't ignore. If there were secrets in that house, if there were dangers she needed to know about, then she had the right to know what she was getting into. The boxes had handwritten labels: documents, 2018, photos, miscellaneous, Catherine, personal. It was this last one that caught her attention. Emily looked over her shoulder, making sure she was alone, then carefully opened the box. Inside were photographs, letters, jewelry and personal documents of Catherine Anderson. The photos showed a stunning woman with blonde hair and a radiant smile, always beside Michael at social events, romantic trips, intimate moments. They seemed genuinely in love, and Emily felt a pang of jealousy that she hadn't expected. But it was when she began to examine the letters that she found something disturbing. Most were love letters from Michael, written during business trips. Ardent declarations, longing expressed in elegant handwriting, promises of eternal love. But there were other letters, with different handwriting, unsigned. Catherine, you need to stop this. He will find out. What we're doing is dangerous. Please reconsider. You don't understand who he really is. Leave while you can. Emily felt her heart accelerate. Was there a lover? Was Catherine having an affair? She continued searching and found something even more disturbing. Photocopies of bank documents that showed regular transfers of money from an account in Catherine's name to a numbered account abroad. And at the bottom of the box, hidden inside, a sealed envelope, was a document that made Emily hold her breath, a handwritten declaration, apparently written by Catherine herself, dated 1 week before her death. If something happens to me, I want it to be known that it was not an accident. Richard Myers threatened me directly. He said that if I didn't collaborate with his scheme, both Lily and I would be in danger. Michael can't know about this. He would do something rash. But someone needs to know the truth. Emily read the document 3 times, trying to process the implications. Catherine hadn't died in an accident. She had been murdered, and there was a man named Richard Myers involved. Her hands were trembling when she closed the box. She had discovered something she shouldn't know, something that could be extremely dangerous. If Catherine had been killed for knowing too much, what would happen to someone who discovered the truth? Emily put everything back exactly as she had found it, and left the storage room carefully. She needed to think, to process this information, before deciding what to do. But first she needed to find out who Richard Myers was. That night, during dinner, Emily observed Michael with new eyes. There were so many things she didn't know about him, about his business, about the dangers that surrounded his life. The innocence of their first encounters had been completely lost. "You're quiet today," Michael observed, when Lily left the table to get her colored pencils. "Just thinking." "About what?" Emily hesitated. How to ask about his wife's death without revealing that she had been going through his personal belongings? "About Catherine. Lily talked about her today, and I was curious about how you met." Michael's expression became softer, but there was caution there too. "Why the curiosity?" "Because Lily talks about her as if she were a saint, and you talk about her as if she were a ghost. I want to understand better who she was to know how to help Lily process the loss." It was a partial lie, but plausible. Michael was silent. For a moment, then sighed. Catherine was complicated, beautiful, intelligent, full of life, but also secretive. There were parts of her I never managed to reach. "What kind of secrets?" "She had friends I didn't know, went to meetings she never fully explained to me. She said she needed independence, spaces that were just hers." Emily felt a chill down her spine. The documents she had found began to make sense. "And that bothered you?" "Of course it bothered me. I loved her, wanted to share everything with her, but Catherine, she came from a complicated family, had traumas she didn't like to talk about. I thought that with time she would open up completely." "And did she?" "No. She closed up even more in the last months. She was nervous, anxious, always looking over her shoulder. I would ask what was happening, but she said it was just stress." "And you believed her?" "I wanted to believe, but deep down I knew something was wrong." Emily swallowed hard. "And the night she died? Did you argue about this?" Michael looked at her with surprise. "How do you know we argued?" "You mentioned it once. You said she left the house after a discussion." "That's true. I had discovered that she was receiving strange calls, meeting with people she refused to introduce me to. That night, I confronted her about a man who had called several times." Emily held her breath. "What man?" "Richard Myers. He said he was an investor interested in my hotels, but something about him gave me the chills. Catherine insisted it was just business, but I knew there was more." "Bingo." Emily tried to keep her expression neutral. "And what happened in the argument?" "I said I didn't want that man approaching our family anymore. Catherine said I was being paranoid, that I didn't trust her. She was right. I didn't trust him. And in the end, I was right." "Why?" "Because after her death, he disappeared. Never contacted me again, never mentioned investments again. As if his interest had died along with Catherine." Emily felt nauseous. Michael was so close to the truth but couldn't see it. "Have you ever thought that maybe Catherine was in danger? That maybe she couldn't tell you the truth to protect you?" Michael stopped eating and looked at her intensely. "Why are you asking these questions, Emily?" "Because." Emily took a deep breath, deciding to take a risk. "Because sometimes people keep secrets out of love, not betrayal. What if Catherine was hiding something from you? Maybe it was to protect you." "Protect me from what?" "From someone dangerous. From someone like this, Richard Myers." Michael became very quiet, and Emily realized she had planted a seed of doubt in his mind. "Emily, why are you really interested in this?" Before she could answer, Lily came running back to the room. "Can I draw at the table, please?" "Of course, Princess," Michael said, but his eyes didn't leave Emily. The rest of dinner passed in relative normality, but Emily could feel the weight of Michael's gaze on her. She had awakened his curiosity, and that could be dangerous. After Lily went to bed, Emily was preparing to retire when Michael called her. "Emily, could you come to the library? I'd like to talk." Her heart raced. The library was his territory, and a conversation there would be much more intimate than anything they had shared until then. Of course. Michael's library was impressive, walls covered with books from floor to ceiling, an antique mahogany desk, leather armchairs that seemed to embrace whoever sat in them. There was a bar in a corner and a sound system that played classical music softly. "Would you like something to drink?" Michael offered. "No, thank you." He poured himself a whiskey and sat in one of the armchairs, motioning for her to sit in the other. "Emily, your questions about Catherine made me think." "About what?" "About things I preferred to ignore at the time. Signs I didn't want to see." Emily felt her heart accelerate. What kind of signs? Catherine was afraid. In the last weeks, she would wake up startled, check the locks on the doors obsessively, avoid going out alone. I thought it was paranoia, but maybe it was survival instinct. Exactly. Michael took a sip of his whiskey. And if you're right, what if she was protecting me from something or protecting Lily? Emily knew she was treading on dangerous ground, but couldn't stop. "Have you ever really investigated her death, beyond what the police said?" "No, the report said accident. I was devastated. I preferred to accept it and try to move on. Maybe it's time to revisit that." Michael studied her for a long moment. "Why is this so important to you, Emily? Why is a 19-year-old nanny so interested in solving mysteries that even I didn't want to solve?" The question caught her off guard. Emily realized she had exposed herself too much, shown an interest she couldn't explain, without revealing her discovery. "Because I care about Lily, and if there's something dangerous in your lives, something that could threaten her safety, I need to know." It was true, but not the complete truth. "And because I care about you," she added softly. The confession instantly changed the atmosphere in the room. Michael put his glass on the table and leaned forward. "Emily, I know it's complicated. I know you still love Catherine, that I'm too young, that I work here." "Stop." Emily closed her mouth. "Do you think I don't know this is madness? Do you think I don't know that I should keep my distance from you? Then why don't you? Because since you arrived here for the first time in 2 years, I remember what it's like to be alive." Michael got up and went to the sound system, changing the music. The first chords of Debussy's Clair de Lune filled the room. "Catherine loved this music," he said. "I couldn't listen to it after she died. But today, I could." "Why?" "Because you taught me that it's possible to miss someone without being consumed by it." Emily stood up too, and they stood there in the middle of the library, with Debussy playing and 2 years of solitude between them. "Michael, I need to tell you something." "What?" Emily hesitated. Should she tell him about the documents? About the suspicions of murder? About the dangers that she didn't completely understand? "I also don't know how to do this. I've never fallen in love with someone who what? Who could completely destroy me." Michael approached her slowly. "And you think I could destroy you?" "I know you could." "And yet you stay." "Yet I stay." He was very close now, and Emily could see the golden nuances in his dark eyes, feel the heat emanating from his body. "Emily, if we're together, it won't be easy. My life is complicated. It has aspects that you don't know yet." "Dangerous aspects?" The question seemed to surprise him. "Why do you ask that?" "Because Martha warned me that women who get involved with you get hurt." Michael tensed. "Martha said that?" "Yes, and mentioned that you have enemies." "Emily," he ran his hands through his hair, "my business involves a lot of money, a lot of interests. There are always people who don't like my decisions. But that doesn't mean..." "Doesn't mean what?" "That Catherine wasn't killed because of it." The question escaped before Emily could control herself. Michael looked at her as if she had slapped him. "What did you say?" Emily realized she had gone too far. It's just a possibility. If she was afraid, if this Richard Myers was dangerous, how do you know about Richard Myers? You just told me. No, you already knew the name before. You asked about him specifically during dinner. Emily felt panic rise. Michael was more observant than she had calculated. Michael, You what, Emily? What aren't you telling me? The atmosphere in the room had completely changed. The romantic tension was replaced by something much more dangerous. I'm concerned about Lily's safety. And yours. If there are dangerous people in your life, I need to know. That doesn't answer my question. How did you know about Richard? Emily was cornered. She could lie and hope he would believe her, or she could tell the truth and face the consequences. I found some of Catherine's things. The silence that followed was deafening. Michael looked at her with a mixture of betrayal and anger that made Emily take a step back. You went through her things? I wasn't looking for anything specific. I was exploring the house and... Lie. No one explores a house looking for personal documents unless they're looking for something specific. Emily realized she had completely underestimated Michael Anderson. Behind the emotional vulnerability was a shrewd businessman, accustomed to dealing with people who tried to deceive him. All right. It's true. Martha scared me with her threats, and I wanted to understand what kind of danger I might be in. And what did you find? Emily took a deep breath. There was no going back. Unsigned letters warning Catherine to be careful, bank transfers to accounts abroad, and a declaration written by her saying that if something happened, it wouldn't be an accident. Michael was completely still. You're lying. I'm not. Michael, Catherine knew she was in danger. She specifically mentioned Richard Myers, said he was blackmailing her. Blackmailing her how? I don't know. But she said that if she didn't collaborate with some scheme, both she and Lily would be in danger. Michael walked to the window, his back to Emily. His shoulders were tense, his hands clenched into fists. Why didn't you tell me this immediately? Because I didn't know if I could trust you. Because I didn't know if you were involved. Turned abruptly. You thought I might have killed my own wife. I didn't know what to think. You're powerful. You have secrets. And Catherine was clearly hiding something from you. How could I know if it was to protect you or to protect herself from you? The anger in Michael's eyes was palpable. You spent all these days pretending to care about me, pretending to care about Lily, while suspecting I might be a murderer. No, Michael, it's not like that. Then what is it, Emily? Why are you really here? The question hung in the air like a blade. Emily realized she had reached the moment of truth. Because I ran away from home after discovering that my stepfather was involved in drug trafficking. Because he would beat me when I asked questions, and my mother pretended not to see. Because when I discovered he was also involved in prostitution, he threatened to kill me. The words came out like a flood. I came here because I needed to disappear, because dangerous people were after me. And when I arrived and saw there were mysteries here too, I panicked. Michael observed her in silence, processing the information. So you're not just an innocent nanny looking for a job. No, I'm a fugitive trying to survive. And you think my house is a safe hideout? I don't know, but it's better than the street. Michael sighed deeply, the anger being replaced by something more complex. Emily, do you have any idea what you found, what this means? It means your wife was murdered, and whoever did it is still out there. It means I've lived 2 years blaming myself for a death that might have been planned. And it means you and Lily might still be in danger. They looked at each other across the room, two fugitives from complicated pasts, trying to understand what they had found in each other. I need to see these documents, Michael finally said. They're hidden in a storage room behind the library. Can you show me? Emily nodded, and they walked together through the narrow corridor to the storage room. When Emily retrieved the box and opened it, Michael examined each document with growing agitation. My God, he murmured as he read Catherine's declaration. She knew and didn't tell me. She was trying to protect you. She should have trusted me. And what would you have done? Faced Richard Myers alone? I would have found a way to protect her. Or you might have died along with her. Emily's words hit him like a punch. Michael sat on an old box, holding his head in his hands. 2 years, Emily. 2 years I blamed myself. 2 years I convinced myself that she had died because of me. Emily knelt beside him. It wasn't your fault, it was the fault of whoever killed her. But I could have saved her. Or she could have saved you. Catherine made a choice, Michael. She chose to protect you the only way she knew how. Michael raised his face, and Emily saw tears in his eyes. And now, what do we do with this? We find Richard Myers. We discover the truth. Emily, this is dangerous. If he killed Catherine, then he needs to pay for it. And if he comes after Lily, and after you? Emily felt a shiver of fear, but also an iron determination. Then we catch him first. Michael looked at her with a new intensity. You have no idea what you're getting into. Yes, I do. I know dangerous men, Michael. I grew up with one. But this is different. This is justice for Catherine, and protection for Lily. Michael held her face between his hands. Emily, I can't lose you too. You won't. How can you be sure? Because now we both know the truth, and because this time we'll fight together. Michael kissed her then, not with the gentleness of the first time, but with desperation, passion, and fear. A kiss that spoke of revealed secrets, shared dangers, and a connection that had become much deeper than either of them expected. When they separated, both were breathing heavily. Emily, if we do this, if we go after the truth about Catherine, there's no going back. I know. And if we discover things we don't want to know, we face them together. And if this destroys us? Emily looked into his eyes and saw fear, but also determination. Then at least we'll know we fought for the truth. Michael nodded, and Emily knew they had crossed a definitive line. They were no longer just a grieving man and a lost nanny. They were partners in a search for truth that could save them or completely destroy them. And for the first time since she had arrived at the Anderson mansion as a frightened fugitive, Emily felt she was exactly where she should be. The decision to investigate Catherine's death changed everything at the Anderson mansion. In the days that followed, Michael and Emily became silent conspirators, exchanging meaningful glances during meals, whispering plans when Lily wasn't around, sharing a dangerous intimacy that went far beyond physical attraction. Michael had discreetly hired a private investigator, a former police officer named Mark Robinson, who had worked on corporate corruption cases. The first report arrived on a grey Thursday morning, and Emily observed Michael's face darken as he read. "What did you discover?" she asked when they were finally alone in the library. "Richard Myers doesn't exist." Emily felt her stomach freeze. "What do you mean?" "The name is fake, an identity created 3 years ago for a person who has at least 5 other documented names." Michael passed the papers to Emily. "Actually, his name is Robert Mitchell. He's 52 years old, and he specializes in blackmailing wealthy businessmen." "Blackmail how?" "Various forms. Sometimes he involves wives in phantom investment schemes. Sometimes he creates compromising situations. Sometimes he simply threatens the family until he gets what he wants." Emily examined the photos attached to the report. Robert Mitchell was a man of common appearance, the type who would go unnoticed in a crowd, but there was something in his eyes that made her shudder. And Catherine? How did she get involved with him? We still don't know, but Mark discovered that Robert had been investigating our family for months before making his first contact. He knew about our schedules, our habits, the places we frequented. He had been planning for a long time. Exactly, and Emily, Michael hesitated. "There's one more thing." "What?" "Robert Mitchell disappeared after Catherine's death, but reappeared 2 weeks ago, in the city." Emily's blood froze. 2 weeks. That was exactly when you arrived. Here? They looked at each other in silence, the implications of that coincidence echoing between them. "Do you think he knows we discovered something?" Emily asked. "I don't know, but I don't believe in coincidences." Emily got up and walked to the window. Outside, Lily was playing in the garden under Martha's watchful eye, completely oblivious to the dangers that might be surrounding her small life. "Michael, I need to tell you something." "What?" "I think my stepfather might be involved in this." Michael tensed. "How?" "Robert Mitchell and this type of scheme, these false identities, this way of operating, it's exactly what my stepfather did. He had connections with people who solved problems for rich men." "Emily, are you suggesting that—" "I'm suggesting that maybe my arrival here wasn't as accidental as I thought." Michael approached her, holding her shoulders. "Explain that better." "I ran away from home, that's true, but I chose to respond specifically to your ad because I recognized the family name. My stepfather had mentioned the Andersons a few times." "In what context?" "Of dirty business. He said you were a rich family that needed guidance to solve some problems." Michael went pale. "Emily, are you telling me you came here knowing there was a connection?" "No, I came because I was desperate and thought that maybe if there was a connection, I could use it to my advantage to get the job." Emily took a deep breath. "But now I realize I may have been manipulated from the beginning." "Manipulated how?" "What if my stepfather wanted me to come here? What if the violence at home, the threat, all of it was orchestrated to make me flee?" "Exactly to this place." The possibility was terrifying, but it made sense in a sick way. Why would he do that? To have someone inside your house. Someone close to Lily, close to you. Michael released her shoulders and walked to the desk, running his hands through his hair. "That would mean that from the first day, I've been a threat to you." The silence that followed was heavy. Emily could see Michael processing the implications, recalculating every moment they had shared. "Michael, you need to know that I didn't know. If I was manipulated, it was without my knowledge. Everything I felt for Lily, for you, is real." He looked at her for a long moment. "How can I be sure?" The question hurt more than Emily had expected. "Because if I were working against you, I wouldn't have shown you Catherine's documents. I wouldn't have told you about Robert Mitchell. Unless that was part of the plan, to make yourself seem trustworthy and then what, Michael? Fall madly in love with you. Want to protect Lily as if she were my own daughter." The passion in Emily's voice seemed to partially convince him. "Emily, I want to believe you, but if we're right about this conspiracy, then we need to discover the truth. About Robert, about my stepfather, about everything." Michael nodded. Slowly, "Mark can investigate the connection, but Emily, if you really were planted here, I know it means I'm in danger too." They were interrupted by urgent knocks on the library door. "Mr. Anderson!" It was Martha's voice, laden with panic. "It's about little Lily." Michael immediately opened the door. "What happened?" "She disappeared from the garden. I left her playing for 5 minutes to answer the phone, and when I came back..." Emily felt the world spin. "Did you search the whole house?" "We're searching, but..." Martha hesitated, looking at Emily with suspicion. "Mr. Anderson, there was a strange call earlier. A man asking if Lily was well, if she was having fun with the new nanny." Emily's blood froze. "What man?" "He wouldn't identify himself. He just said that Lily was a very special girl and that he hoped she would stay safe." Michael and Emily exchanged a look of terror. "Robert," Emily whispered. "Call the police," Michael ordered Martha. "Now." "Sir, maybe it's not necessary. Children hide sometimes." "Call the police." Michael's shout echoed through the mansion. Emily had never seen him lose control like that. "Michael, breathe, we'll find her. If something happens to Lily, it won't." Emily called out Lily's name, hoping to hear a giggle in response, but only encountered silence. When they reached the back garden, Emily saw something that made her heart stop. Lily's favorite doll, thrown on the ground near the gate that led to the woods. "Michael!" He ran to where she was and saw the doll. "She would never leave Bella behind," he murmured, referring to the doll. "Never." "The gate is open," Emily observed. "This gate is always kept locked." They ran toward the woods, shouting Lily's name. Emily felt panic rising, mixed with terrible guilt. What if Lily had been taken because of her? What if her presence there had really put the girl in danger? It was Michael who found her first, behind a large tree, tied up and with a gag in her mouth, but apparently unharmed. Her eyes were wide with terror. "Lily!" Emily ran to help untie the girl. "Daddy!" Lily threw herself into Michael's arms as soon as she was free, sobbing uncontrollably. "It's okay, Princess. Daddy's here. An ugly man took me. He said he was Daddy's friend, but I knew he was lying." Emily felt nauseous. "What else did he say, sweetheart?" "He asked about Emily. He wanted to know if Emily Sue was nice if you were friends." Emily and Michael looked at each other over Lily's head. "And what did you say?" Michael asked gently. "I said that Emily is the best, that she sings to me and that you like her too." Emily's stomach turned. Lily had confirmed exactly what Robert wanted to know. "Lily, where did the man go after he talked to you?" "He said he would wait. That soon you would have a conversation." Michael picked Lily up. "Let's go back to the house now." They ran back to the mansion, where they found Martha frantically speaking on the phone with the police. When she saw them arriving with Lily, she hung up and ran to them. "Thank God, child, are you all right?" "I am, Martha, but the ugly man said he's coming back." The innocent words of Lily made all the adults tense. "Mr. Anderson," Martha said quietly, "the police are on their way, but perhaps it would be better to leave town until we resolve this." "I'm not going to flee from my own house." "Michael," Emily intervened, "Martha is right. Lily can't stay here if Robert is nearby. And you, are you also going to suggest that I abandon you here?" The question carried multiple layers of meaning. "If it's necessary to protect Lily, yes." "No." "Michael, I said no, Emily. I already lost Catherine because I didn't protect her adequately. I'm not going to lose you too." Martha observed the exchange with increasingly suspicious eyes. "Mr. Anderson, may I speak with you privately?" Michael hesitated, then handed Lily to Emily. "Stay with her. Don't let her out of your sight." Emily nodded, carrying Lily to the living room, while Michael and Martha moved away to talk. "Emily," Lily whispered, "the ugly man said a strange thing." "What was it, sweetheart?" "He said you would leave soon, that people like you always leave." Emily felt her heart clench. "Lily, look at me. I'm not leaving, I promise. But what if Daddy makes you? But why would Daddy make me?" "Because Martha doesn't like you. She thinks you want Daddy's money." Emily sighed. Children's perception was sometimes frighteningly accurate. "Lily, what do you think? Do you think I want Daddy's money?" "No. You want his heart." The simplicity of the answer made Emily smile despite everything. "That's true. I do. And he wants yours too. I see how he looks at you." "Lily..." "Emily, can I tell you a secret?" "Of course." "I wish you could be my new mommy." Lily's words hit Emily like lightning. There was so much innocent hope in that confession, so much pure love that she felt tears threaten her eyes. "Lily, that's very complicated." "Why? You like Daddy, he likes you, I like both of you. Mommy Catherine is in heaven, she can't come back, but you're here." The childish logic was devastatingly simple and correct. "Sweetheart, sometimes adults make things more complicated than they need to be. But you won't leave, right? Even if it gets complicated?" Emily looked into Lily's large, trusting eyes and felt something settle definitively in her heart. "I won't leave, little one, no matter what happens." It was at that moment that Michael and Martha returned, and the expression on both their faces was not encouraging. "Emily, we need to talk," Michael said, his voice strangely formal. Emily felt her stomach sink. "Lily, why don't you draw for a bit while we talk?" "Can I draw our family?" Lily asked innocently. "Of course, sweetheart." After Lily was settled with paper and colored pencils, Michael led Emily to a corner of the room where they could speak quietly. "Martha told me some concerning things." "What kind of things?" "She said you've been asking questions about Catherine since the first day, that you were too interested in the family business and that," he hesitated, "that you were seen leaving my room one morning." Emily felt her face heat up. "Michael, I can explain." "Then explain." "The questions about Catherine were because Lily talked about her constantly, and I wanted to understand better to help her process the loss. The interest in the family business arose after Martha threatened me, and about leaving your room." Emily took a deep breath. "That happened yesterday morning, after you told me about the documents that Mark had found. We slept together, it's true, but it wasn't planned. It wasn't calculated. It happened because we felt close after sharing so many secrets." Michael observed her in silence. "Martha thinks you're manipulating me, that you're using Lily to get to me. And you? What do you think?" "I think I want to believe you. But Martha has worked here for 20 years, Emily. She knows this family better than anyone else. And I love this family more than anything else." The confession escaped before Emily could control it. Michael looked at her with surprise. "Emily, it's true. I love Lily as if she were my daughter, and I love you in a way that scares me, that makes me want to stay even knowing it could be dangerous." But Martha raised a valid point. "If you really were planted here, if your arrival was orchestrated, then let's discover the truth, together. But don't send me away based on suspicions. Emily, if you stay and something happens to Lily—" "Nothing will happen to Lily. I would die before letting anyone hurt her." The intensity in Emily's voice seemed to partially convince Michael. "All right. You stay, but with conditions." "Which ones?" "First, you never stay alone with Lily. There's always another adult present." Emily nodded, although the condition hurt. "Second, you tell me everything about your past, everything about your stepfather, about how you got here, about any detail that might be relevant." "I agree." "And third," Michael hesitated, "for now we keep physical distance until we resolve this situation." This condition hit Emily like a punch. "Michael, Emily, I need to have a clear head to protect my daughter, and when I'm near you, I can't think straight." It was simultaneously an insult and a compliment, and Emily didn't know how to react. "All right," she murmured. "Emily, this doesn't mean I don't trust you or that I don't feel—" "I understand." But she didn't understand. Not really. She understood. Rationally but emotionally, she felt rejected, suspected, placed in a position where she had to constantly prove her innocence. The arrival of the police interrupted the conversation. Two detectives listened to the account of Lily's kidnapping, examined the place where she was found, and promised to increase patrols in the area. But Emily could see in their eyes that they considered the case more like a prank than a real kidnapping attempt. After the police left, the tension in the house was palpable. Martha watched Emily with open distrust. Michael maintained a formal distance, and Lily perceived that something had changed, even without understanding what. During dinner, Lily asked a question that left everyone uncomfortable. "Why is everyone sad the ugly man is gone?" "We're not sad, Princess," Michael lied. "We're just being careful." "Careful about what?" "About everything, to make sure you're safe." "But I am safe. Emily is here to protect me." Emily felt Martha's gaze burning in her direction. "Lily, Emily is our employee. It's her job to take care of you. But she doesn't take care of me just because it's her job. She takes care of me because she loves me." "Lily," Michael tried to intervene. "It's true, Daddy. She said she loves me like a daughter." The silence that followed was awkward. Emily knew she had crossed a line by saying that to Lily, but she had been sincere. "Emily," Martha said with a cutting voice, "I'd like to speak with you in the kitchen." Emily knew she was about to face the confrontation she had been avoiding. "Of course." In the kitchen, Martha closed the door and turned to Emily with cold eyes. "You've crossed the line." "How?" "Making promises to a vulnerable child, making her think you're a family." "Lily said that on her own. I never—" "You've been sleeping with your employer." The direct accusation made Emily speechless for a moment. "That's none of your business." "Yes, it is when it affects a child. I see as my own granddaughter. Lily has already lost one mother. I won't let her lose another maternal figure when you get tired of this life and decide to leave." "I won't leave." They all leave. Always. And do you know why? Why? Because Mr. Anderson is not an easy man to love. He's obsessed with control, haunted by the past and incapable of completely trusting someone. Catherine discovered this, and you will discover it too. Maybe Catherine discovered this because there were secrets between them. Secrets that we don't have. Martha laughed bitterly. You think there are no secrets, naive girl. This house is made of secrets. What kind of secrets? The kind that kills people. The phrase hung in the air like a threat. Martha, do you know something about Catherine's death? I know that she asked too many questions, just like you. Emily felt a shiver run down her spine. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you. Stop meddling in things you don't understand. Stop making promises you can't keep, and stop playing with Mr. Anderson's feelings. And if I don't stop? Then you'll discover that some people in this town have a lot of power, and that accidents happen more frequently than you imagine. Emily stared at the housekeeper, seeing for the first time the true coldness behind the maternal facade. You know who killed Catherine. I know that Catherine was meddling in dangerous things, and that when you play with fire you end up getting burned. Martha, the conversation is over, Miss Emily. I hope you understood the message. Martha left the kitchen, leaving Emily alone with her growing suspicions and a new fear. What if the threat didn't just come from outside the mansion? That night Emily lay alone in her room, listening to the familiar sounds of the house settling for the night. Footsteps in the library above, the tick-tock of the antique clock in the hall, the wind in the trees of the garden. But there was a new sound. Footsteps in the corridor outside her room, stopping in front of her door. Emily held her breath, expecting a knock that never came. Instead, she heard the sound of something being slid under the door. When she was sure the footsteps had moved away, Emily got up and turned on the light. On the floor was an unmarked envelope. Inside, a photo of Lily in the garden, taken that same day, and a handwritten message. She is very beautiful. It would be a shame if something happened to her because of adults' mistakes. You have 48 hours to convince Michael to meet with me. Alone. Or the next photo will be very different. RM. Emily felt her legs give way. Robert Mitchell hadn't given up. He was there, close enough to photograph Lily, close enough to slide threats under the door. And now she had an impossible choice. Tell Michael, and risk him doing something reckless, or try to deal with the situation herself and risk Lily's life. Emily looked at the photo of Lily smiling innocently in the garden and knew there was no choice at all. She would do anything to protect that child, even if it meant putting her own life at risk, because sometimes loving someone means being willing to sacrifice for them, and Emily had discovered that she loved Lily and Michael more than her own safety. The question now was, would she be able to save them before it was too late? Emily spent the entire night awake, holding the photo of Lily and the threat from Robert Mitchell, weighing her options. Every scenario she imagined ended badly. If she told Michael, he would impulsively confront Robert and could be killed. If she didn't tell him, Robert might do something terrible to Lily. If she tried to handle it alone, she could be walking straight into a trap. At 5 in the morning, she made a decision. Emily dressed silently and wrote a letter to Michael, explaining everything about the threat and her plans. She left the letter on the nightstand, along with the photo and Robert's message, then left her room without making a sound. But instead of leaving the mansion, she went up to Lily's room. The girl was sleeping peacefully, hugging the Bella doll they had rescued in the garden. Emily sat on the edge of the bed and gently touched the child's curly hair. "Lily," she whispered softly. "Sweetheart, I need to talk to you." Lily opened her eyes slowly, still sleepy. "Emily, why are you awake so early?" "Because we need to talk about something very important. Can you listen to me while fully awake?" Lily sat up in bed, perceiving, from the seriousness in Emily's voice, that something was wrong. "I'm awake. What happened?" "Remember the ugly man who took you yesterday?" "I remember. He wants to hurt our family, and I need to stop him." "How?" Emily took a deep breath. She was about to ask something terrible of a 5-year-old child. "Lily, do. You remember where Daddy's office in the city is? I remember we went there once. And do you remember the way?" "I think so. Why?" "Because I need you to be very brave and do something very important for me." Emily explained her plan to Lily, every detail, every contingency. The girl listened to everything with the seriousness of someone much older, asking intelligent questions, suggesting improvements. "Emily, are you sure you'll be okay?" "I'm sure I'll do everything to be okay. But if something goes wrong, you know what to do?" "I know, but I don't want you to go away." "I don't want to go either. But sometimes, to protect the people we love, we need to be brave." Lily nodded, and Emily saw an iron determination in the girl's eyes that reminded her of Michael. "Emily?" "Yes." "After everything is over, will you marry Daddy?" The question drew a smile from Emily, despite everything. "If he wants to, and if you would approve, I would really like that." "I approve. You're the best almost mommy in the world." Emily kissed Lily's forehead, memorizing that moment of pure innocence before the storm that was to come. At 6 in the morning, Emily went down to the kitchen, where she knew she would find Martha preparing breakfast. "You're up early today," Martha commented without raising her eyes from the toaster. "Couldn't sleep. Guilty conscience?" Emily approached the housekeeper. "Martha, I need to ask you a question, and I want you to be honest." "What question?" "Do you work for Robert Mitchell?" Martha was completely still for a few seconds. Then she turned slowly, and Emily saw a completely different expression on her face, no longer the maternal mask, but something cold and calculating. "How did you find out?" "The photo. He left for me last night. Only someone inside the house could have made it so easy for him to get so close to Lily." Martha laughed softly. "Smart girl. Too smart for your own good." "How long have you been working for him?" "Since before Catherine's death." Emily felt her stomach turn. "You helped kill Catherine." "I facilitated things. Catherine was becoming a problem. She asked too many questions, discovered too many things. Robert needed access to company information, and she was getting in the way. But she was a mother, a wife. She was an obstacle." The sigh, coldness in Martha's voice was terrifying. "And Lily, you've taken care of her all these years knowing you helped kill her mother?" "Lily is a child. Children adapt. She's adapting to you too, isn't she?" "Why did you bring me here? What was the plan?" "The plan was simple. Robert needed someone close to the family, someone Michael would trust. Your stepfather owed us some favors, and you were the perfect candidate, young, beautiful, vulnerable. Michael has always had a savior complex." Emily felt as if she had been punched. "My stepfather has been working for Robert for years. The violence at home, the threats, everything was staged to make you flee exactly where we wanted." "And after? What was the final plan?" "You would marry Michael, have access to all the family business, and then, well, accidents happen." Emily had to lean on the counter to avoid falling. "You were going to kill me too, eventually after you were no longer useful. And Lily? Lily would inherit everything, with Robert as legal guardian. Simple." The monstrosity of the plan left Emily speechless. They had orchestrated everything. Her escape, her arrival at the mansion, her passion for Michael, even her genuine affection for Lily. Everything manipulated, calculated, used. But there was one thing they hadn't calculated, that Emily might really fall in love, that she might be willing to sacrifice everything to protect her new family. "Martha, where does Robert want to meet with Michael?" "Why do you want to know?" "Because I'm going in his place." Martha laughed. "Foolish girl, you think you can face Robert Mitchell?" "I can try. Robert will kill you. Maybe. But Lily will be safe." "And you think that will matter?" "Michael. We'll face the same blackmail, we'll face the same dangers. You dying solves nothing." Emily smiled, and there was something dangerous in that smile. "Oh, but I'm not going alone." It was at that moment that Michael appeared in the kitchen, still, in pajamas with disheveled hair and a furious expression. "Emily, what the hell does this letter mean?" "It means I discovered the truth." "What truth?" Emily looked at Martha, who had gone completely pale. "The truth about who really killed Catherine, and about who planned all this from the beginning." Michael followed Emily's gaze and saw the expression on Martha's face. "Martha?" "Mr. Anderson," Martha tried to regain her composure, "the girl is delusional." "No, Martha. The girl discovered that you've been working for Robert Mitchell for years, that you helped kill Catherine, and that I was brought here as part of a plan to steal your fortune and kill your entire family." The silence that followed was deafening. Michael looked from Emily to Martha, processing the implications. "Martha," his voice was dangerously low, "is this true?" "Mr. Anderson, I've worked for this family for 20 years. Is this true?" Michael's shout echoed through the kitchen. Emily had never seen him so furious. Martha realized there was no more denying. Catherine was interfering with business. She discovered about Robert's investments, about the agreements you made without knowing. "What agreements?" "The hotels, sir. 3 of them have been used for money laundering for 2 years. Robert needed your signature on some documents. But Catherine discovered it and threatened to go to the police." Emily saw Michael go pale. "My hotels are being used for money laundering?" "Robert has falsified documents with your signature. If the police investigate, you'll be held responsible for everything. And for that, you killed my wife." "For that, Robert eliminated a problem." Martha's words were the trigger. Michael moved so fast that Emily barely had time to react. He grabbed Martha by the neck, pinning her against the wall. "Where is he?" His voice was a growl. "Michael, no," Emily tried to intervene. "We need her alive." "Why? So she can lie more? So she can hurt more people in my family?" "Because she's our only proof, and because Lily might come down at any moment." The mention of Lily made Michael release Martha, who collapsed to the floor, coughing. "Where is Robert waiting?" Emily asked. In the abandoned warehouse in the industrial zone. He wants to meet with Michael at 10 in the morning." Emily looked at the clock. It was 7:30. "Michael, we need to call the police. The police will want evidence, and while they investigate, Robert might do something to Lily." "Then what do you suggest?" Michael looked at her, and Emily saw an iron determination in his eyes. "We go to the meeting, but not alone." "What do you mean?" "Mark has contacts in the police, people who can help us without bureaucracy. And if it's a trap, it is a trap. But now we know that." Emily nodded, then turned to Martha. "You're coming with us, and if you try to deceive us, I swear I'll let Michael do whatever he wants with you." Martha nodded, still coughing. "And Lily?" Michael asked. "Lily is safe. She knows what to do." Michael looked at her curiously, but didn't have time to ask. At that moment, Lily appeared in the kitchen, dressed and with a backpack. "Hi, Daddy." "Hi, Emily. I'm ready." "Ready for what?" Michael asked. "To go to Uncle Mark's office while you solve the problem with the ugly man." Michael looked at Emily with admiration and disbelief. "You planned all this?" "I planned some contingencies, including using my 5-year-old daughter as a messenger, including keeping your daughter safe while we save her life." Michael was silent for a moment, then picked Lily up. "Princess, are you sure you want to do this?" "I am, Daddy. Emily explained everything to me. I'll stay with Uncle Mark until you come back." "And if we don't come back?" "You will come back, because you love each other, and when people truly love each other, they always find a way to stay together." Lily's innocent wisdom made Emily smile despite her fear. An hour later, Lily was safe in Mark Robinson's office, who had been informed of the entire situation and was coordinating with his police contacts. Michael, Emily, and Martha were heading to the abandoned warehouse in the industrial zone, each lost in their own thoughts. "Emily," Michael said in the car, "I need to tell you something." "What?" "If something goes wrong today, nothing will go wrong. But if it does, I want you to know that I fell in love with you from the first night I saw you sleeping on the porch." Emily felt tears threaten her eyes. "Michael, And I want you to know that nothing we discovered about how you got here changes what I feel. You may have been manipulated to come, but everything that happened afterward was real. How can you be sure? Because nobody can fake the way you sing to Lily when she has nightmares. Nobody can fake the way you looked at me when I told you about Catherine. And nobody can fake being willing to die to protect our family. Emily held his hand. I love you, Michael. I love you and Lily more than my own life. I love you too. And after we resolve this, I want you to marry me. Is that a proposal? It's a promise. They arrived at the warehouse at 9:50. It was an old, abandoned building, surrounded by empty lots and other ruined structures. The perfect place for a meeting where no one would hear screams. He's in there, Martha said. How many men did he bring? I don't know. Robert doesn't completely trust me. We know, Emily murmured. They approached the building slowly. Emily could see movement in the second-floor windows, shadows, reflections, signs that they weren't alone. Michael Anderson! A voice shouted from inside the building. I know you're out there. Michael took a deep breath. Robert Mitchell, or should I say Robert Mitchell? Smart. Come in alone and bring the girl. What girl? Emily Carter, my special protégé. Michael and Emily exchanged a look. He knew I would come, Emily murmured. It's a double trap. Then let's play his game. They entered the building together, leaving Martha in the car as arranged with Mark. The interior of the warehouse was dark and dusty, with stacked boxes creating labyrinths of shadows. Come up, Robert's voice echoed from above. Second floor. The CEO climbed the rusty metal staircase, each step echoing in the silence. On the second floor, they found Robert Mitchell waiting in an empty room, surrounded by 3 armed men. Robert was exactly as Emily had imagined. Ordinary, the type of man who would go unnoticed in a crowd, but with eyes that revealed a cruel intelligence. Michael Anderson. Finally, we meet in person. Bastard, you killed my wife. Your wife killed herself by sticking her nose where it didn't belong. She discovered your scheme. She discovered that you had been used for 2 years without knowing it. Your hotels are the base of a money laundering operation that moves millions per month, with falsified documents, with perfectly legal documents signed by you. Michael looked confused. Impossible, I never signed anything. Oh, but you did. Every time Martha brought urgent papers for you to sign at home, every time you signed without reading completely, trusting her efficiency. The revelation hit Michael like lightning. He turned to Emily with horror in his eyes. Martha made me sign consulting contracts, outsourcing agreements, transfers of responsibility, all perfectly legal, all making you responsible for operations you didn't even know existed. And Catherine discovered. Catherine was a pianist, but not stupid. She saw the documents, made the connections, threatened to expose everything. So you killed her. I solved a problem, and today I'll solve another one. Robert made a signal, and his men pointed their guns at Michael and Emily. You both know too much, and unlike Catherine, whom I first tried to convert, your problems from the start. Robert, Emily said, can I ask a question? You may. Why did my stepfather agree to hand me over to you? Money and fear. He owes more than he can pay to people who don't forgive debts. And if I die here, he goes free? He does. Emily nodded as if accepting her fate. One last question? Make it quick. Do you really think we're as naive as Catherine? Robert frowned. What do you mean? I mean that Catherine didn't die for being stupid. She died for being brave. She discovered your scheme, and instead of running away, she tried to protect her family. And we learned from her mistake. Emily smiled, and there was something dangerous in that smile. Mark, now! The warehouse windows exploded simultaneously as the police invaded the building. Robert and his men were caught completely by surprise, and before they could react, they were surrounded by elite marksmen. Police, weapons on the ground. Robert looked at Emily with anger and admiration. You bitch, you were prepared. We were. Unlike Catherine, we knew you were a predator from the beginning. This won't solve anything. The documents your husband signed are real. He'll still go to jail. Oh, but you forgot something, Michael said, taking a digital recorder from his pocket. You just confessed that you falsified my signature, that you manipulated the documents, that you used Martha to deceive me. Robert went pale. This won't hold up in court. Yes, it will, especially with Martha's testimony, who's already confessing everything to the detectives downstairs in exchange for a reduced sentence. The expression on Robert's face changed from confidence to despair in seconds. You have no idea what you just did. I have partners, people who won't like losing money because of you. Then they'd better come after you, not us, Emily said. Because you're going to spend a long time in jail thinking about how you underestimated a 19-year-old nanny. Robert was taken away in handcuffs, still cursing and making threats. His men were also arrested, and Emily finally managed to breathe properly. It's over, Michael said, hugging her tightly. It's over. Emily. Yes? You were amazing, brave, intelligent, perfect. Michael. Yes? Now, can you propose to me properly? Michael laughed, and Emily realized it was the first time she had heard him really laugh since she arrived at the mansion. Emily Carter, will you marry me? Yes, but there's one condition. What? Lily has to be our flower girl. She'll be ecstatic. 3 months later, Emily was in front of the mirror in her old room at the Anderson mansion, which was now officially her home, adjusting the simple but elegant wedding dress she had chosen. Life had changed completely since the day at the warehouse. Robert Mitchell was sentenced to 25 years in prison for murder, money laundering and extortion. Martha received 10 years as an accomplice, but helped dismantle the entire criminal network in exchange for protection in prison. Emily's stepfather was arrested as a collaborator and was testifying against others involved in the organization. Michael's hotels were cleared of any illegal activity, and he had implemented new security and auditing systems to ensure nothing like this would happen again. But the most important change was Lily. The girl had blossomed since the truth came out. She no longer had nightmares, smiled constantly, and had started calling Emily Mommy Emily, a title that made Emily's heart clench with happiness every time. Emily? Lily shouted, entering the room in her pink flower girl dress. You look beautiful. Thank you, sweetheart. You also look spectacular. Daddy is nervous downstairs. He said he's afraid you might change your mind. Emily laughed. Tell Daddy. He's stuck with me forever. Really? Forever ever? Forever ever. Lily threw herself into Emily's arms. I love you, Mommy Emily. I love you too, little one. The ceremony was simple, held in the garden of the mansion that now seemed completely different, full of light, laughter, life. Mark Robinson was Michael's best man. Lily was the most beautiful flower girl in the world, and a few close friends watched as Emily and Michael promised to love each other forever. When the judge said, "You may kiss the bride," Michael held Emily's face between his hands. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For teaching me that it's possible to start over, for saving my daughter, for saving me." "Thank you," Emily responded, "for giving me a family." They kissed as Lily applauded excitedly and threw rose petals into the air. That night, after Lily went to bed, Emily and Michael sat at the piano in the music room, the same piano where they had shared their first moment of true intimacy. "Play something," Emily asked. "What would you like to hear?" "The song you were learning when we met." Michael smiled and began to play the simple melody that Emily had taught months ago. It wasn't perfect, but it was full of love. "You know," Emily said, resting her head on his shoulder, "I think Catherine would be happy." "Why?" "Because Lily has a mother who loves her. You have someone who makes you smile, and this house has finally become a home again." Michael stopped playing and kissed the top of her head. "I love you, Mrs. Anderson. I love you too, Mr. Anderson. Forever. Forever." And for the first time since she had arrived at the Anderson mansion as a frightened fugitive, Emily knew, with absolute certainty, that she was exactly where she should be. She had found not just a refuge but a home, not just a job but a family, not just security but true love. Sometimes the best stories begin in the most unlikely places. Sometimes love finds us when we least expect it, and sometimes running away from a bad past is the first step to building a perfect future. Emily Carter had run away from home at 19, carrying only a backpack and a wounded heart. Emily Anderson woke up the morning after the wedding in a mansion full of light, with a daughter who adored her and a husband who loved her more than his own life. And when Lily appeared in her parents' bed at 6 in the morning, as all happy children do, asking to hear the story of how Daddy and Mommy met, Emily knew she finally had a beautiful story to tell. A love story that had overcome secrets, dangers, distrust, and fears. A story that proved that sometimes, when two wounded people meet at the right moment, they can heal each other and create something more beautiful than they ever imagined possible. A story that ended exactly as all the best love stories should, end with a happy, safe family, eternally grateful for having found each other at the moment they needed each other most. And if Robert Mitchell was right about one thing, it was that some things in life are permanent, like true love, like family, and like the feeling of finally being home.